As historically dominant as the Milwaukee Bucks have been in these past two regular seasons, it seems like they are often brushed aside by the mainstream conversation. Claiming the best overall record for the 2018-19 and 19-20 season, the Bucks have just been steamrolling through their competition night in and night out. The main reason the Bucks' regular season dominance is not being mentioned as much as it should be is because analysts, rightfully so, are still skeptical about the legitimacy of the team when it comes to the playoffs. Either way, let's talk real quick about just how dominant the Bucks have been in this regular season. Sitting at 53-12, the Bucks are currently claiming the 15th best win percentage of all time, which is at 0.815. The league-leading 10.7 net rating is the highest ever. Their 11.29 margin of victory is the 5th best ever. While their offense is unstoppable, their high rate of wins can be contributed more to their defense, as the Bucks have had a defensive rating of 8.5 points per 100 possessions, ranking 3rd best since the NBA-ABA merger. Enough with the boring stats. I'm sure by now it's understood just how dominant the Bucks are in the regular season. Giannis and the Bucks know that the real challenge comes in the postseason. They were just as dominant last year as well, but unfortunately couldn't get past the reigning champs, the Toronto Raptors. After winning the first 2 games at home, it seemed as if the Bucks had an easy coast to the finals, but Kawhi Leonard and Cass had enough of that and flipped the switch, playing unreal basketball. Nick Nurse and his team constructed a series of excellent game plans, diverting all their attention to Giannis and Middleton, forcing the others on the team to make plays instead. After Game 2, Giannis and Middleton were essentially neutralized, comparing to their average performances, of course. Giannis was seeing a lot of double teams, while also having nowhere to really operate in the paint. Game 3 and 6 were offensive nightmares for Giannis. In Game 3, he shot 5 for 16, a 31% clip, and in Game 6, he shot 7 for 18, which was a 39% clip. The second best player, Middleton, played just as bad, if not worse. Apart from Game 4, Middleton was completely stopped as he averaged 9.6 points on 26.5% shooting in 3 of the last 4 games. The Raptors literally ripped the Bucks' heart out of their chest as they completely stopped the team's 2 best players. Here's where things get interesting for these upcoming playoffs. First, it should be noted that Giannis only has 1 year remaining left on his contract after this season. While Giannis has not given any indication yet, there's always a chance he does leave if things do get ugly. So there is some pressure amongst the Bucks execs on whether or not to deal their MVP before the deadline, in the case things do get bad. If anything, the soon-to-expire contract puts more pressure on success for the Bucks this postseason. Now let's say the Bucks hypothetically do lose. I think for the Bucks to consider this season a failure, that would be if they didn't make it to the finals, although you could still consider a loss in the finals also a failure as well. The reason anything but a championship is considered pretty bad for the Bucks is twofold. 1, because the Bucks' room for improvement is pretty marginal, and 2, the Eastern Conference is only going to get better. Currently, the Bucks have the 2nd highest payroll in the league. After this season, they only lose about $3 million in guaranteed money, so they'll be sitting about at $132 million in guaranteed dollars. Early in January, the league informed teams that the salary cap would raise to $115 million, but now ESPN's Bobby Marks projects the cap to dip, worst case scenario, about $25 million to $30 million. Either way, the Bucks are above the salary cap, so it would be extremely hard to add any significant talent to the team unless some good players are willing to take a significant pay cut. The only way they could possibly acquire better players is through trade, but even that option doesn't seem too attractive for the Bucks. Looking at the team's payroll, they only really have 2 attractive tradable assets, and those are Eric Bledsoe and Dante DiVincenzo. But those 2 won't really be enough to acquire any game-changing players. In terms of player development, the Bucks don't really have much upside on that either. Middleton seems to have peaked as he will now enter his 8th season at 29 years old, averaging about 18 to 21 points per game these past 3 seasons. Production-wise, he has pretty much been stagnant for the past 3 years, not showing much growth. Bledsoe also seems to be on the downside of his career. Since 2016-17, when he averaged a career-best 21 points, Bledsoe has been steadily declining for the past 5 seasons, now sitting at 15 points per game. He will be entering his 12th season and turning 31. Aside from the rookie DiVincenzo, the only other player on the roster that still has legitimate upside potential is their best player, Giannis. Everyone agrees Giannis is a monster, but the one flaw in his game is his shooting. Since entering the league, Giannis has shot a below average 3. He shot 31% this year, while the league average is 36. Considering he hasn't crazily grown as a shooter since he got into the league, it would be interesting to see if Giannis does significantly get better in the coming years. Anyways, the only way this team gets any better is if Giannis does become a much better shooter from the outside, which at that point would just make him unstoppable. Now, the second reason the Bucks should be worried is that the East is only going to get better. Right off the bat, a presumably healthy KD and Kyrie would be back in action, making, in many critics' opinions, the Nets to be the favorites in the East, of course. Also, many of the teams right now competing with the Bucks are pretty young. Jason Tatum is only 21 and leading the Celtics with a 23-year-old Jaylen Brown and a prime Kemba Walker. A pair of 25-year-olds, Van Vliet and Siakam, are leading the defending champs Raptors. The Sixers are led by a 25-year-old Joel Embiid and a 23-year-old Ben Simmons. Apart from a prime Jimmy Butler, the Miami Heat are being led by a 22-year-old Bam Adebayo, 25-year-old Duncan Robinson, and a pair of rookies Kendrick Nunn and Tyler Hero. And not to mention, an already deep Pacers squad should get a healthy Oladipo back. Without any moves really, these teams are going to just get better through simply development. This will truly be an interesting summer if the Bucks do get bounced early or lose in the finals. There won't be many options for the Bucks front office, so they must make some very tough decisions if they plan on getting better as a team. As always, guys, let me know how far do you think the Bucks are going to get in the playoffs, of course, and if they do lose in the finals or before, what do you think they should do to improve their team? And thanks for watching.